All right, good morning, students. So today is Wednesday, May 20th, and in this video, I'm going to be telling you the notes for the water cycle. So this is our water cycle lesson number 2, and it's really important that you listen to the entire video and pay close attention because I'll be giving you new notes on everything about the water cycle today. So if you want to get a paper and a pencil and you want to take notes just like you would do in class, that would be a really great option for you because you will have a quiz on the water cycle on Friday. All right, so right now I'm on our class materials page. Yesterday, you were supposed to retake your test if you wanted to, and then you were supposed to also do your water cycle warm up. I saw a lot of correct answers, which shows me that a lot of you already know a lot about the water cycle, which is great. And now we're going to go ahead and watch this video and take some notes. And then for today's homework, you're going to be summarizing your notes. So in class, we would take the notes and then you would write a summary on the bottom of your notebook. Same thing, you're going to listen to the notes, write it down if you want to, and then type your summary on the discussion post. All right, so I'm going to go to our week 9 slides and I'll press present. Again, today we were listening to this video, taking notes, and writing a summary. If you still need to catch up on previous lessons, you know where to look. It's in the colored folders in the materials page. If you're ready to move on, click on the Wednesday slides. So our learning objective says, I will learn about the water cycle by reading, listening to new vocabulary words, and by summarizing what I learned. So what will you turn in today? Today you'll turn in your water cycle notes summary. And of course, you can't write the summary if you haven't listened to the video. So please pay close attention to the video and take notes and listen carefully. All right, so the water cycle, like I said, is it involves all the water on our earth that's constantly going around in a cycle. So here's a good image to help you remember. And we'll be learning about each of these vocabulary words today. So right now you're taking Cornell notes if you want to. If you just want to listen, that's okay. If you think it's helpful to write it down, go ahead. And for homework, you're turning in a 5-sentence summary. So first, let's start by talking about the 3 states of matter. The 3 states of matter that water can be in is solid, liquid, and gas. Now, when water is in the solid state, we call that ice. And when water is in a liquid state, we just call it water. And when water is in a gas state, we call it water vapor. So vapor is the gas state of water. So you can see the liquid here, vapor here, and then solid ice as on the icicles as they're coming on the trees. Now, how does water change states? How can we change the states of matter for the water? Well, same thing. If you add or remove thermal energy, which is heat, you can change the state of water. So for when ice is melting, that's when thermal energy is being added. So when you add thermal energy, the water is going to change states. It's going to go from solid to liquid. Now, how about when water freezes? Water freezing is when thermal energy is being removed. So you have to remove thermal energy in order for that liquid water to freeze. And when water is boiling, thermal energy is being added. You have to add thermal energy to make the particles move faster so that it becomes a gas. Now, what is the major source of energy in the water cycle? Something needs to be powering the water cycle. What makes the water go in this cycle? Because water is not alive, so what's powering it? Well, the sun. The sun is the major source of energy that powers the water cycle. Now, we also can call the water cycle the hydrologic cycle because hydro means water. And cycle is the continual movement. It doesn't stop. The water continues to move among the Earth's atmosphere, the skies, the oceans, and the land. Now, the first step that we need to learn about is evaporation. Evaporation has the word vapor in it, vapor. Remember, vapor means gas, the water vapor. So evaporation is when the particles on the surface of a liquid, they absorb energy from the sun and the particles start to move so fast that it changes into a gas. So when the sun heats up the liquid water, it's going to change the liquid water into vapor, into a gas. So like the discussion question yesterday, when you have a puddle of water on the floor outside after the rain, the sun is going to heat up the water particles are going to move around faster and faster, and then it's going to start to rise up and become a water vapor. It will become a gas. So evaporation is liquid to gas. You see vapor rising up from these hot pools. So again, evaporation has the word vapor, liquid becomes gas. Now, what is transpiration? Transpiration, it involves plants. Now, it's the process by which plants, they release water out of their leaves. So you know that plants, they absorb water from their roots. They soak up water from the ground, the soil, and then the water travels up the plant as the plant uses it. And then because the sun is going to heat up the plants too, the little water droplets that are on the leaves, they're going to be released into the air as water vapor. So even plants help to release water back into the sky. Now, what about humans and animals? How do we release water into the atmosphere? Well, whenever we breathe, it's called respiration. Like in Spanish, you know what respirar means to breathe. So respiration is the process by which animals, we release water vapor into the air when we breathe out, exhale. So like if you ever breathe out onto a mirror, like this person in the picture is doing, you see that your mirror gets foggy. That's because there's water vapor in your mouth, and when you breathe out, it's going to touch the mirror and it's going to change into a liquid form. That's why you see that fog. So we also release water back into the atmosphere by breathing, so respiration. Now, this one's a tricky one, condensation. Condensation is when water vapor loses thermal energy and it changes back into liquid water. So as the water vapor rises up into the sky, it's going to lose thermal energy again. And remember, when gas loses thermal energy, it changes back into liquid. That's why when you get like a cold can of soda and you leave it outside, you see water beads forming on the outside of the can. The can is not sweating. Where did that water bead come from? Well, there's water vapor, water particles all in the air, and when they touch something cold, it changes back into liquid water. So up in the sky, when the water vapor, the gases are rising up, and it gets colder and colder the higher you go, then it's going to lose thermal energy and change back into liquid water. And that's how clouds are formed. Clouds are formed when the water vapor in the air condenses. That's called condensation to form liquid water. So clouds are actually millions of tiny water droplets, liquid water that's all stuck together. Okay, so one more time, we learned evaporation, and don't forget condensation is going from a gas back to a liquid. It's condensing back to a liquid because it's losing thermal energy. Now, what is precipitation? Some of you already knew this word from the discussion. Precipitation is any form of water that falls from the clouds and it reaches Earth's surface. So rain, snow, sleet, or hail, those are all forms of precipitation because they're all a form of water that's falling from the clouds. Now here in LA, we probably only get rain. Maybe sometimes we see hail, but for snow to come down as precipitation, it needs to be a lot colder so that the raindrops will freeze into snow, into a solid. Now, runoff. What is runoff? Well, runoff is what it sounds like. When water is running off, when water is running down. So water that flows across land and collects in the rivers, the streams, and then eventually they run off and go to the ocean. So all the rivers, the streams, they all lead the water back to the ocean. So even when the water falls from the mountaintops, all of that water from the rain and the snow is going to run off through the streams, the rivers, and then it's going to eventually end up in the ocean. Now, what's infiltration? Infiltration is when you know when something infiltrates, like when you play games and you infiltrate a land, you're going into something. So infiltration is when water, it soaks into the soil and the water moves underground and moves between the rocks to join groundwater. So after it rains and the water goes into the soil and it joins the groundwater, the water that's under the ground. Now, what is groundwater? Groundwater is what it sounds like. It's all the water that's located within the rocks below the Earth's surface. So it's all the water that's under the Earth's surface. So it's under the ground. All right. So now that's one more slide. Now, what role does gravity play in the water cycle? Well, we learned that the sun is what powers the water cycle, but what does gravity do? Well, gravity is the force that pulls things down. So whatever pulls things down, that force is called gravity. So gravity pulls precipitation down from the clouds. It pulls the water down from the clouds. Because if the clouds get heavy and filled with a lot of liquid water, it's too heavy to stay up in the sky. Gravity is going to pull it down. And gravity also pulls water downhill and underground. So like in the runoff, the reason why the water flows down the streams, and in groundwater, the reason why water infiltrates the soil and gets pulled down is because of gravity. All right, so now that's the end of our notes. You're gonna go ahead and go to our upcoming assignments and you're going to write a summary of the notes that I just told you. I will put up the notes on Schoology, so if you want to read the notes on your own and slowly copy everything down, these notes will be on the Google Slides that I post every week. Now the password for today's video, let me give you the password. The password for today's video is going to be the word cycle. So we're learning about the water cycle. And for your 5 sentences that you use to summarize, make sure that you tell me about the steps that we've discussed in this lesson video. All right, so make sure it's 5 sentences long, telling me the 5 important things that you learned. Please do not copy from my words. Please summarize in your own words. Do not just copy from what I wrote in the notes. All right, so you're gonna go ahead and go to our Schoology page. In the white folder, the water cycle notes homework is right here. If you want to read the notes again, just open up the week 9 slides and you can see the water cycle notes that I just went over. All right, thank you for listening, and I will talk to you again in well, tomorrow we don't have a video. Tomorrow is office hours, so if you want to join me on Zoom, you can join on tomorrow's Zoom meeting, but otherwise I will see you on Friday.